The morning air in Seattle, Washington, hung heavy with the scent of rain-soaked moss and the rich, woody aroma of cedar trees, a fragrance that enveloped the suburban streets like a tender embrace. It was early June, the Puget Sound, a silver ribbon winding through the city, its gentle lapping blending with the rustle of evergreen branches overhead. Liam Harper, nicknamed Baby for his youthful innocence and wide-eyed wonder, a 9-year-old with tousled brown hair and a slightly oversized green jacket, pedaled his bike down Cedar Lane, the wheels humming against the damp pavement. His sneakers, scuffed from countless explorations, gripped the pedals as he navigated past neatly trimmed hedges and the occasional jogger, his breath puffing in the cool mist. In his backpack, a dog-eared nature journal jostled with every turn, a collection of sketches of birds, squirrels, and the seals he'd spotted at the Sound. Liam loved animals. His mom always said it was his gift, a quiet connection that set him apart from the other kids who preferred video games. He'd begged for a pet since he could talk, his journal a silent plea to a father who'd passed years ago, leaving behind memories of a border collie named Rusty. Today, though, felt different. The abandoned warehouse at the end of the block, a rusted relic of steel and ivy, its windows shattered, called to him with an unspoken urgency. The site was fenced with sagging chain link, its edges tangled with weeds, but Liam's curiosity tugged harder than caution. He slowed his bike, the chain rattling as he coasted to a stop near a pile of debris, twisted metal, broken bricks, and a tarp sodden from last night's rain. The silence broke with a sound so faint it might have been the wind, a whine, high and desperate, threading through the morning calm. Liam's heart skipped, his hazel eyes scanning the site. He dropped his bike, letting it clatter against the fence, and stepped closer, the wet moss soaking his socks. The whine came again, sharper now from behind a collapsed section of the warehouse wall. Peering through a gap, he froze. There, wedged in a tangle of rusted metal and debris, was a German shepherd, Rex, his black and tan fur matted with dirt and damp, his head and front paws protruding like a statue abandoned by time. The dog's amber eyes met Liam's, wide with pain and a flicker of hope, his breath shallow, his tongue lolling as he struggled to move. "Oh no," Liam whispered, his voice trembling, barely audible over the distant lapping of the Sound. He dropped to his knees, the cold, wet ground seeping through his jeans, his hands hovering inches from Rex's muzzle. The shepherd, whom Liam would later name Rex, whimpered again, a sound that sliced through the boy like a blade, stirring a mix of fear and determination. The metal encased Rex's torso, his hind legs invisible, the wreckage's jagged edges etched with rust that suggested days of exposure. How long had he been there? Liam's mind raced, picturing the dog trapped since the warehouse was left, surviving on rainwater and sheer will. The air grew thick with the scent of wet metal and the earthy musk of the cedars lining the street, a contrast to the warmth of Rex's labored breaths. Liam's fingers brushed the debris, its cold surface grounding him as his heart pounded. He'd read about dogs in books from the library, how they communicated distress with whimpers, how their loyalty could defy odds. Coppinger's Dogs, 2001. But this was different. This was real, a living creature staring into his soul, begging for help he wasn't sure he could give. He thought of Rusty, his dad's dog, whose gentle eyes had comforted him after the funeral, and felt a surge of resolve. He couldn't leave Rex here, not when those eyes held a plea he couldn't ignore. "Hold on," Liam murmured, his voice cracking as he glanced around. The street was empty, the chain link a flimsy barrier between him and the dog. He pulled, his journal from his backpack flipping to a blank page, and tore off a corner, scribbling a note. "Dog stuck in wall, help." He tucked it into his jacket, planning to run home, but hesitated. Rex's paw twitched, reaching toward him, the movement weak but deliberate, as if sensing the boy's intent. Liam's breath hitched, tears prickling his eyes. He didn't know how to free Rex, but he knew he had to try. The cedars swayed, their branches whispering in the breeze, a sound that felt like encouragement from the Seattle wilds he loved. Footsteps crunched behind him. Maintenance crew members, their voices rising as they approached the site. Liam's stomach dropped, his mind flashing to the trouble he might be in, but Rex's whine pulled him back. The dog's eyes locked on his again, a silent trust forming in that moment, a hook that caught Liam's heart and wouldn't let go. This wasn't just a stray. This was a companion waiting to be saved, a story waiting to unfold. The scene held. The sounds hum a distant heartbeat. The cedars a cathedral of green. Seattle's misty beauty framing a moment of discovery that would ripple through the neighborhood. The late morning light filtered weakly through the dense canopy of cedars along Cedar Lane in Seattle, Washington, the air thick with the damp musk of rain-soaked moss and the sharp tang of rusted steel. Liam Harper, nicknamed Baby for his tender innocence, knelt beside the collapsed warehouse wall, his green jacket streaked with mud, his small hands trembling as they hovered over Rex, the German shepherd trapped in the tangle of metal debris. The dog's amber eyes, wide with pain, locked onto Liam's, his whimpers a fragile thread against the growing rumble of approaching engines. Liam's heart thudded, a frantic rhythm against his ribs, as he clutched the crumpled note he'd scribbled, "Dog stuck in wall, help," still tucked in his jacket, a plan half-formed to seek aid. Footsteps crunched through the wet gravel, sharp and deliberate, shattering the quiet. Liam's head snapped up as 3 maintenance crew members, clad in orange vests and hard hats, emerged from a rumbling truck parked near the warehouse. Their boots sank into the mossy ground, leaving deep prints, and the tallest, crew leader, carried a crowbar slung over his shoulder, its weight a silent threat. The other 2, crew member 1 and crew member 2 with radios crackling at their hips, squinted at Liam, their faces hardening. "Hey, kid," crew leader barked, his voice cutting through the cedar's rustle. "Get back. That's a hazard zone." Liam froze, his knees sinking deeper into the wet moss, the cold seeping through his jeans. Rex's whimpers turned into a low growl, a sound raw with stress, his trapped paws scrabbling feebly against the rusted metal. The dog's fur, matted with dirt and damp, trembled with each breath, his eyes darting between Liam and the approaching crew. Liam's throat tightened, his mind racing. Rex wasn't wild, he was scared, just like him. But the crew didn't see that. To them this was a stray, a liability on a site they needed cleared. I can't," Liam stammered, his voice cracking as he stood, moss clinging to his sneakers. "He's stuck. We can't leave him to die." Crew member 1 raised a hand, his radio squawking with static, and stepped closer, the scent of sweat and oil trailing him. "That's a wild dog, kid. Could be rabid. Step away or we'll clear it ourselves." His tone was firm, leaving no room for argument, his eyes narrowing as Rex's growl deepened, a pitiful echo against the wreckage's unyielding surface. Liam's stomach churned, his gaze dropping to Rex, whose head drooped, exhaustion etching lines into his expression. The boy's fingers brushed the note in his pocket, his plan to fetch help now a distant hope as the crew loomed. The warehouse site buzzed to life around them, the roar of a truck engine, the clank of metal tools, the distant hum of a crane. Sounds that drowned Rex's whimpers and tightened the knot in Liam's chest. He thought of his mom, her gentle warnings about danger, and his dad's old tales of Rusty, the border collie who'd once saved a trapped rabbit. Could he save Rex like that? Or would he fail, leaving the dog to a fate he couldn't bear? Crew leader set the crowbar down, its head thudding into the moss, and pulled out a phone, dialing with a grunt. "Yeah, we got a kid and a dog issue here. Send the cleanup crew quick." He eyed Rex, his lip curling. "Might have to use the crane. Can't risk it attacking." The words hit Liam like a punch, his vision blurring with tears. Use the crane? What if it crushed Rex? The dog's growl faded into a whine, his paws stilling as if he sensed the threat. His trust in Liam the only anchor in his terror. The air grew heavier. The Puget Sound's hum a faint lifeline beyond. The cedars, its presence a reminder of Seattle's wild soul now overshadowed by human haste. Liam stepped forward, his small frame a barrier between Rex and the crew, his sneakers slipping on the slick moss. "No, please," he pleaded, his voice rising, cracking with desperation. "He's not rabid, he's scared. Look at him." His hands shook, but he held his ground, the note crumpling in his fist, a symbol of his resolve. Crew member 2 sighed, rubbing his neck, while crew leader pocketed his phone, muttering about delays. A raven landed on a rusted beam, its caw sharp and ominous, adding to the tension. Rex's eyes met Liam's again, a flicker of something. Hope, maybe, passing between them, a silent plea that fueled the boy's courage. The crew debated, their voices a low rumble, one suggesting the crane, the other insisting on waiting for wildlife rescue. The crowbar lay in the moss, a looming threat, while the truck's roar grew louder, the site's chaos closing in. Liam's mind raced, his fear warring with a stubborn determination he didn't know he had. He thought of the library books, how dogs like Rex could growl when cornered, how their stress could turn to aggression if pushed, Coppinger's Dogs, 2001, but also how they sought help from humans they trusted. Rex wasn't attacking. He was reaching out, and Liam was his only hope. The cedars swayed, their branches whispering in the breeze, a sound that felt like a call to action from the Seattle wilds he loved. He couldn't run for help now, not with the crew so close, not with Rex's life on the line. The tension coiled tighter as a second truck rumbled into the site, its headlights cutting through the morning haze. More crew members piled out, their voices overlapping, their tools clanking, the site transforming into a battlefield where Rex's fate hung in the balance. Liam's tears fell, mixing with the moss on his cheeks, his small hands clenching as he stood firm. The dog's whimpers grew fainter, his strength waning, but his eyes never left Liam's, a bond forming under pressure, a peril that would test them both, setting the stage for a miracle no one could foresee. The midday air in Seattle, Washington hung damp and cool on this Friday, June 13, 2025, at 10:45 a.m. PKT, the aftermath of a morning drizzle clinging to the cedar trees lining Cedar Lane, their needles glistening like emeralds under the pale sun. The abandoned warehouse site, a patchwork of rusted metal and debris, grew quieter as the maintenance crew's initial fervor waned, their tools resting momentarily. Liam Harper, nicknamed Baby for his tender innocence, stood his ground beside the collapsed wall, his green jacket streaked with mud, his small frame trembling but resolute. Rex, the German shepherd trapped in the wreckage, lay still, his amber eyes dulled with exhaustion, his whimpers fading into soft pants. The air carried the sharp scent of wet metal, mingled with the earthy musk of the cedars and the distant, refreshing whisper of the Puget Sound. Liam's heart pounded, a frantic rhythm against his ribs, as he faced the crew. Tears streaked his dirt-smudged cheeks, mixing with the rain's residue, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. The note he'd scribbled, "Dog stuck in wall, help," crumbled in his pocket, a plan abandoned as the peril thickened. Rex's growl had silenced, replaced by a weak twitch of his paw, a gesture that pierced Liam's fear with a surge of empathy. He couldn't let them clear the debris, not when it might crush Rex further. The scent of damp moss and cedar sap filled his lungs, grounding him as he stepped forward, his sneakers sinking into the slick ground. "Please." Liam's voice broke, high and shaky, cutting through the site's fading noise. "He's not wild. Look at him, he needs us." His words trembled, but they carried a weight beyond his years, a plea born from the memory of his dad's border collie, Rusty, whose gentle eyes had comforted him after the funeral. He dropped to his knees, ignoring the cold seeping through his jeans, and leaned closer to Rex. The dog's eyes met his, a flicker of trust sparking through the pain, his tongue lolling as he struggled to lift his head. Crew leader paused, the crowbar hovering mid-air, his brow furrowing as he studied Rex. The dog's fur, matted and damp, clung to his frame, his trapped state a stark contrast to the crew's hardened resolve. Crew member 2 lowered his radio, the static fading, his gaze softening as Liam's tears fell freely. The site's chaos, the truck's rumble, the clank of tools, seemed to hush, the cedars rustle a gentle counterpoint, as if the Seattle wilds held their breath. A soft chitter broke the silence, drawing Liam's attention. A stray raccoon, sleek and gray, padded from the shadows of the warehouse, its dark eyes glinting in the light. The raccoon approached the wall, weaving between the debris, and settled near Rex, its chitter a low vibration that seemed to calm the dog. Rex's tail twitched, a faint wag that surprised Liam, his whimpers easing as the raccoon nudged the metal with its paw. The crew exchanged glances, their stern expressions wavering, the raccoon's presence a subtle nudge toward compassion. "See?" Liam pressed, his voice steadier now, pointing at the raccoon. "Even he knows Rex isn't bad. He's just scared." His hands gestured toward Rex, who lifted his paw slightly, as if reaching for the boy, a trust response that mirrored studies of canines seeking human aid in distress. Coppinger's Dogs, 2001. The raccoon chittered again, its tail flicking, a wild ally in this urban wilderness, its presence echoing Seattle's reputation for embracing nature's creatures. Crew leader lowered the crowbar, its head thudding into the moss, a reluctant concession. "All right, kid," he muttered, rubbing his neck, his tone grudging. "We'll call wildlife rescue, but you stay back. Don't want you hurt." His words carried a shift, a crack in the wall of their initial stance. The threat of clearing the debris paused. Crew member 1 nodded, raising his radio again, his voice quieter as he requested assistance, the static a faint backdrop to the raccoon's chitter. Liam's chest loosened, relief flooding him as he sat cross-legged, the moss soaking through his pants. He pulled a granola bar from his pocket, a snack meant for the park squirrels, and held it out. Rex's nose twitched, his tongue darting to lick it feebly, a small act of acceptance that warmed Liam's heart. The raccoon edged closer, its chitter growing louder, a bridge between the boy and the dog. Liam's tears slowed, his fear giving way to hope, his mind replaying his dad's stories of Rusty's rescues, a legacy fueling his resolve. The crew stepped back, their tools idle, the truck's engine cutting off as they waited. The cedars swayed, their needles whispering in the breeze, a sound that felt like approval from the Seattle landscape he loved. Liam whispered to Rex, "You're gonna be okay," his voice a promise, the raccoon's presence a sign that help might come. The tension lingered, the site's machinery a looming shadow, but the shift had begun. A boy's plea, a dog's trust, and a raccoon's quiet intervention softening hearts in a moment that would ripple outward, setting the stage for a rescue no one could yet imagine. The Puget Sound's hum drifted faintly, a lifeline beyond the cedars, the morning light growing stronger, illuminating the scene with a fragile hope. Liam stayed, his small frame a sentinel beside Rex, the raccoon a guardian at the wall, the crew's hesitation a crack in the peril's grip. In Seattle, where community and nature intertwined, this moment marked a turning point, a plea that would draw others into a story of compassion and courage. The late afternoon sun dipped low over Cedar Lane in Seattle, Washington, casting a golden sheen across the cedar trees, their wet needles shimmering with the morning's rain on this Friday, June 13, 2025, at 11:47 a.m. PKT. The abandoned warehouse site, a chaotic sprawl of rusted metal and debris, grew quieter as the maintenance crew's tools fell silent. Their initial threat of clearing the wreckage replaced by a hesitant pause. Liam Harper, nicknamed Baby for his tender innocence, sat cross-legged beside the collapsed wall, his green jacket dusted with mud, his small hands resting near Rex, the German shepherd still trapped in the metal tangle. Rex's amber eyes, though weary, held a flicker of trust. His whimpers softened by the gray stray raccoon's chitter, which vibrated gently against the cold debris. The air carried the sharp scent of wet metal, mingled with the earthy musk of the cedars and the distant, refreshing breeze of the Puget Sound. Liam's heart, which had raced with fear moments ago, began to steady, his tears drying on his cheeks as hope took root. The crew leader with his crowbar now propped against a beam, and crew member 2 with his radio silent, stood back, their faces etched with reluctant concern. The raccoon, sleek and alert, perched on a nearby beam, its dark eyes glinting in the fading light, a wild ally that had shifted the mood. Liam clutched the crumpled note in his pocket, its purpose overtaken by the arrival of a white van marked Seattle Wildlife Rescue, its tires crunching the gravel as it pulled up at 11:50 a.m. PKT. Two officers stepped out, their uniforms crisp, despite the dampness, carrying toolboxes and a stretcher. Officer 1, a woman with a kind face and a clipboard, approached Liam, her boots squelching in the mud. Officer 2, a broad-shouldered man with bolt cutters in hand, surveyed the wall, his expression serious but not unkind. "Hey, you must be the one who called for help," Officer 1 said, her voice warm but firm. "What's going on here?" Liam scrambled to his feet, his sneakers slipping slightly, and pointed at Rex. "He's stuck. I found him this morning. And the crew wanted to clear the wall, but he's not wild, he's just scared." His words tumbled out, a rush of relief and urgency, his hazel eyes pleading for understanding. Officer 2 knelt beside the wall, examining Rex closely. The dog's fur was matted with dust and sweat, his front paws trembling as they pressed against the metal, but he didn't snap. The raccoon chittered softly, its presence a steady rhythm, and Rex's tail gave a faint wag, a response to the officer's calm presence that mirrored studies of canines calming under human care. Coppinger's. Dogs 2001. Officer 2 nodded, pulling out the bolt cutters. "He's been here a while. We'll need to cut carefully. Can't risk hurting him." Liam's chest loosened, a wave of gratitude washing over him as he stepped closer, holding out the granola bar wrapper he'd kept. "Can he have some water?" he asked, his voice softer now, the fear giving way to a quiet determination. Officer 1 smiled, taking a bottle from her kit and tilting it so Rex could lap at the water, his tongue darting weakly but eagerly. The raccoon watched, its tail flicking, a guardian in this fragile moment of rescue. The crew lingered, their tools idle, watching as the officers began their work. The snip of bolt cutters on metal echoed through the site, a tentative rhythm that replaced the earlier chaos of truck engines and clanking tools. Dust rose in small clouds, catching the sunlight, the scent of pulverized metal mingling with the cedar's earthy aroma. Liam sat back down, the mud soaking through his pants, his eyes fixed on Rex. The dog's breathing steadied, his whimpers fading as the officers cut away the outer layer, their movements precise, guided by the raccoon's quiet presence. Officer 1 glanced at Liam, her clipboard resting on her knee. "You did the right thing, kid. Strays get trapped like this sometimes. Construction sites are risky. What's his name?" "Rex," Liam said without hesitation, the name feeling right as it left his lips. He thought of his dad's Rusty, how naming him had sealed their bond, and felt a similar connection forming. The raccoon chittered again as if approving, its dark eyes reflecting the golden light. Officer 2 chuckled softly, the sound breaking the tension further. "Looks like he's got a fan club already." The rescue was slow, the metal stubborn, but the shift was palpable. The crew muttered among themselves, their earlier hostility softening into curiosity. Crew leader scratched his head, setting the crowbar aside for good. "Never seen a kid stick up for a dog like that," he admitted, his voice gruff but tinged with respect. Crew member 1 nodded, adding, "Guess we'll wait it out. Wildlife knows best." The site's machinery remained silent. The cedars, swaying in the breeze, their whisper a hymn to the Seattle wilds that seemed to bless this effort. Liam reached out, his fingers brushing Rex's paw, the contact sending a shiver of warmth through him. Rex's eyes met his again, a spark of trust growing stronger, his tail wagging more steadily now. The raccoon nudged closer, its chitter a soothing counterpoint to the cutter's snips, a trio of hope in the midst of the site's decay. Liam's mind replayed the morning, Rex's whimpers, the crew's threats, his own tears, and felt a pride he hadn't known before. He wasn't just a kid anymore. He was Rex's advocate, a role that fit like the jacket he wore. The Puget. Sound's hum drifted faintly, a lifeline beyond the cedars, the afternoon light softening the scene. The officers worked methodically, their tools a bridge between danger and safety, the raccoon a silent guide. Liam stayed, his small frame a constant beside Rex. The crew's shift from threat to support a testament to the boy's plea. In Seattle, where community and nature intertwined, This rescue marked a turning point, a hope that would draw others into a story of compassion, setting the stage for a miracle yet to come. The dusk sky over Seattle, Washington, deepened to a soft violet on this Friday, June 13, 2025. At 1:02 p.m. PKT, the last rays of the afternoon sun filtering through the cedar trees along Cedar Lane, casting a golden glow across the abandoned warehouse site. The air was thick with the scent of settling metal dust, wet moss, and the faint, refreshing whisper of the Puget Sound drifting from beyond the trees. Liam Harper, nicknamed Baby for his tender innocence, knelt beside the collapsed wall, his green jacket smudged with mud and dust, his small hands clasped tightly as he watched the wildlife rescue officers work. Rex, the German shepherd trapped for hours, lay still, his black and tan fur matted and damp, his amber eyes fixed on Liam with a trust that had grown through the day. The gray stray raccoon, its dark eyes glowing in the moonlight, perched on a beam nearby, its chitter a steady thread in the tense vigil. The officers, Officer 1 with her clipboard now set aside, and Officer 2 wielding bolt cutters, moved with careful precision, the snip of metal on metal a rhythmic heartbeat against the site's quieted hum. The crew leader and crew member 2, stood back, their crowbar and tools abandoned, their faces softened by the scene unfolding. The truck's engine had long since cut off, the crane's shadow receding, leaving only the cedars rustle and the sound's distant song. Liam's chest tightened with anticipation, his tears from earlier dried into streaks on his cheeks, his mind replaying the morning, Rex's whimpers, the crew's threats, his own plea, and felt a pride he hadn't known before. Officer 2 snipped the final metal strand, a sharp crack echoing as the last piece of debris fell away. Dust billowed, catching the violet light, and Rex's body shifted, his hind legs freed at last. The dog didn't bolt, didn't snap. His movements were slow, deliberate, as if testing his newfound freedom. Liam held his breath, his hands trembling, as Rex turned his head fully toward him. The officers stepped back, their tools lowering, awe in their expressions as the moment stretched. Thick with possibility, the raccoon chittered softly, leaping onto the wall's edge, its tail flicking like a conductor's baton, guiding the scene to its climax. Rex's amber eyes locked with Liam's, a gaze so deep it felt like a window into the dog's soul. The boy's heart stuttered, a warmth spreading through him as Rex's tail gave a tentative wag, then a stronger one, his strength returning with each breath. The dog shifted, his paws pressing into the moss, and leaned forward, his muzzle brushing Liam's hand. A single gentle lick followed, a trust response that mirrored studies of canines bonding with rescuers post-trauma, Coppinger's dogs, one. But to Liam it was more. A miracle, a recognition that transcended instinct. Tears welled in his eyes, spilling over as he whispered, "You're free. Because of us." The officers exchanged a glance, Officer 1's voice breaking the silence. "He's waiting for you, kid." Her words carried a reverence, the raccoon's chitter amplifying the moment's sanctity. Liam reached out, his fingers sinking into Rex's fur, feeling the warmth beneath the dirt, the steady beat of the dog's heart. Rex pressed closer, his body trembling but upright, his eyes never leaving Liam's. A mutual acknowledgement, a bond sealed in the dust and dusk. The crew murmured, crew leader nodding slowly, crew member 2 wiping his brow, their earlier threat forgotten in the face of this quiet triumph. The scene glowed with Seattle's natural magic, the cedars standing tall, the Puget Sound's shimmer, beyond the raccoon a mythic sentinel atop the wall. Liam's mind flashed to his dad, to Rusty, the border collie whose loyalty had been his childhood anchor. This felt like that, a legacy reborn, a connection that healed the boy's lingering grief. Rex's lick had been a gift, a thank you, a promise, and Liam felt it in his bones. The dog's tail wagged fully now, his strength returning, his presence a living testament to the power of care. The officers moved forward with the stretcher, but Rex stayed by Liam, his paws steady in the moss, the raccoon chittering as if blessing the union. Officer 2 chuckled, lowering the stretcher. Looks like he's chosen his person. The crew joined, their hands helping to clear debris, a community effort sparked by a boy's courage. The dust settled, the violet sky deepening. The cedars whisper a hymn to the wild heart of Seattle that had witnessed this miracle. Liam's tears fell freely, mixing with the moss on his face, his heart swelling with a joy he couldn't name. Rex leaned into him, his weight a comfort, his eyes a mirror of the trust Liam had given. The raccoon leapt down, nudging them both, its chitter a final note in this symphony of liberation. The Puget Sound's hum grew louder in Liam's ears, a lifeline beyond the cedars tying this moment to the city's soul, where nature and community intertwined. This was more than a rescue. It was a meeting of spirits, a miracle that would ripple through the neighborhood, leaving tears of awe in its wake. The night unfurled over Cedar Lane in Seattle, Washington, the sky a deep indigo pierced by a crescent moon, its light spilling across the abandoned warehouse site like liquid silver on this Friday, June 13, 2025, at 1:47 p.m. PKT. The air carried the cool, damp scent of cedar trees, their needles glistening with the day's rain mingled with the faint, earthy tang of the Puget Sound, drifting from beyond the evergreens. Liam Harper, nicknamed Baby for his tender innocence, stood beside the crumbled warehouse wall, his green jacket dusted with metal and mud, his small hands still trembling from the miracle of Rex's liberation. The German shepherd, his black and tan, fur-matted but his amber eyes bright with newfound freedom, pressed close to Liam, his tail wagging steadily. The gray stray raccoon, its dark eyes glowing in the moonlight, perched on the wall's edge, its chitter a soft guide in the quiet. The wildlife rescue officers, Officer 1 with her clipboard tucked under her arm, and Officer 2 packing away his bolt cutters, lingered nearby, their van's headlights casting long shadows. The crew leader and crew member 2, had retreated to their truck, their earlier tension replaced by a grudging respect, the crowbar left abandoned in the moss. The site, once a battlefield of noise and threat, now hummed with a gentle peace, the cedars rustle a lullaby to the day's drama. Liam's heart swelled, the memory of Rex's gaze, those eyes locking with his as the final metal fell, still warm in his chest, a bond that felt like a gift from his dad, whose border collie, Rusty, had once walked him home from school. Officer 1 approached, her voice gentle. "We'll take him to the shelter, check him over. You did good, Liam. Want to come along?" Her offer was kind, but Liam hesitated, his eyes on Rex. The dog's tail slowed, his head tilting as if sensing the boy's uncertainty. The raccoon chittered softly, leaping down and padding toward the street, its tail flicking like a beacon. Rex's ears perked, and he took a tentative step, his limp less pronounced now, his gaze shifting between Liam and the raccoon. "No," Liam said, his voice steady despite the lump in his throat. "He's coming with me." He glanced at the officers, his freckled face set with determination. "Please? Just to my house?" Officer 2 chuckled, adjusting his toolbox. "Looks like he's chosen his person. We'll follow. Make sure he's safe." Liam nodded, relief flooding him, and started walking, his sneakers crunching the gravel. Rex fell into step beside him, his pace slow but sure, the raccoon leading the way with a graceful stride. The officers trailed with flashlights, their beams cutting through the misty night, illuminating the path toward Liam's home a block away. The journey was quiet, the warehouse fading behind them, replaced by the soft glow of streetlights and the occasional rustle of leaves. The air grew cooler, the sounds hum a distant heartbeat, guiding them through Seattle's suburban wildness. Liam's mind raced, replaying the day, Rex's whimpers, the crew's threats, the raccoon's intervention, the liberation's miracle. He glanced at Rex, whose amber eyes reflected the moonlight, a trust that felt deeper than words. The raccoon paused at a corner, chittering softly, and Rex stopped, nudging Liam's leg with his muzzle. The boy knelt, his hand brushing Rex's fur, feeling the warmth beneath the dirt. Rex's tail wagged, and then with a gentle motion he dropped a small twig, gnawed and damp, likely scavenged from the site, onto the pavement at Liam's feet. The gesture was deliberate, a gift mirroring studies of canines offering items to trusted humans, Coppinger's dogs, 2001. But to Liam, it was a token of their bond, a release into this new chapter. "Thanks, Rex," Liam whispered, picking up the twig, its rough texture grounding him. The raccoon chittered again, resuming its lead, and Rex followed, his limp fading with each step. The officer's flashlights bobbed behind, Officer 1 murmuring into her radio, coordinating with the shelter. The streetlights cast a warm glow, the cedars framing their path, their whisper a hymn to the Seattle night that seemed to bless this escort. Liam thought of his dad, of Rusty's gentle guidance, and felt a connection, a legacy reborn in Rex's trust and the raccoon's quiet wisdom. They reached Liam's porch, the house's windows glowing with a soft yellow light, his mom's silhouette visible through the curtains. Rex sat, the twig now clutched in Liam's hand, his tail wagging. As he looked up, the raccoon paused at the steps, its dark eyes meeting Liam's, then turned, vanishing into the shadows with a final chitter, a release, a guardian returning to the wild. Officer 2 set down the stretcher, nodding. "He's strong. We'll check him tomorrow, but he's yours for tonight." Liam's mom, Mary, opened the door, her face lighting up with surprise and concern. "Liam, what? Oh." Her eyes fell on Rex, then softened as she saw the officers. "Is he okay?" Officer 1 explained, her voice warm while Liam held the twig, his tears returning. Not of fear, but of joy. Rex leaned into him, his weight a comfort, the journey home a bridge from peril to safety. The night deepened, the sounds hum a lullaby, the cedars standing sentinel. The raccoon's absence was felt, but its role lingered, a mythic thread in this tale. Liam knelt, hugging Rex, the twig a promise between them. In Seattle, where nature and community intertwined, this journey marked a release, not an end, but a beginning, a bond that would grow under the city's watchful trees. The morning light filtered through the curtains of Liam Harper's bedroom, in Seattle, Washington, on this Friday, June 13, 2025. At 10:35 a.m. PKT, a soft golden glow that danced across the wooden floor, carrying the crisp scent of cedars from the backyard. It was the day after Rex's rescue, the air inside still tinged with the faint aroma of cedar cleaner and the earthy musk of wet dog, a new presence in the Harper home. Liam, nicknamed Baby for his youthful innocence, now 9 years old with tousled brown hair and freckles bright against his pale skin, sat cross-legged on his bed, his green jacket swapped for a faded t-shirt, his nature journal open on his lap. Beside him, Rex, the German shepherd, rested on a blanket spread across the floor, his black and tan fur brushed clean but still bearing faint traces of metal dust, his amber eyes half closed in a peaceful slumber. The house was quiet, the hum of the Puget Sound a distant heartbeat beyond the cedars, the neighborhood waking slowly on this misty morning. Liam's mom, Mary, moved softly in the kitchen, the clink of a spoon against a bowl a gentle rhythm, preparing breakfast after a night of tending to Rex with Liam. The dog's limp had eased, his breathing steady, a testament to the officer's care and the rest he'd found under Liam's watchful gaze. The twig Rex had dropped during their journey home lay on the nightstand, its rough texture a tangible link to the bond they'd forged, a gift Liam treasured like a relic. Liam traced his pencil over a new sketch, Rex's outline, his ears perked, his eyes bright, his mind replaying the previous day. The whimpers from the wall, the crew's threats, the raccoon's chitter, the liberation's miracle, all of it swirled in his thoughts, a story he couldn't yet fully grasp. He glanced at Rex, whose tail gave a faint wag in his sleep, a sign of comfort that echoed studies of canines resting post-trauma to rebuild trust, Coppinger's dogs, 2001. The boy's heart warmed, a quiet joy settling in as he recalled Rex's click, that moment of recognition that had changed everything. "Liam?" Mary's voice called softly from the doorway, her face gentle but tired. She held a bowl of oatmeal, steam rising in the cool air. "He's doing better," the shelter called. "His ribs are bruised but no breaks. They'll check him again tomorrow." She set the bowl on the nightstand, her eyes lingering on Rex. "You saved him, you know." Liam nodded, his throat tight, tears prickling his eyes, not of sadness but of pride. "He saved me too, Mom," he whispered, thinking of his dad, whose memory had guided him through the fear. Rex's presence felt like a bridge to that lost time, to Rusty, the border collie who'd once curled at his father's feet. He reached down, his fingers brushing Rex's fur, feeling the steady rise and fall of the dog's chest. Rex stirred, lifting his head, his amber eyes meeting Liam's with a warmth that made the boy smile. The room filled with the scent of oatmeal and the cedar drifting through the open window, the evergreens outside swaying in the morning breeze. Liam fed Rex a small bite, the dog's tongue gentle as he took it, a trust-building ritual that deepened their bond. The raccoon's absence was felt, a guardian who'd vanished into the night. But its role lingered, a mythic thread Liam sketched into the corner of his page, its dark eyes a symbol of hope. He wondered if it watched from the trees, its chitter echoing in the distance. Mary sat on the bed's edge, her hand resting on Liam's shoulder. "The neighbors are talking," she said, her voice warm. "About you and Rex. They want to help. Maybe build a dog run." The community's response, a Pacific Northwest trait of rallying for strays, filled Liam with a quiet pride. He thought of the crew's shift, the officers' care, and felt part of something bigger, a healing that extended beyond him and Rex. Rex shifted, stretching his legs, his limp barely noticeable now. He nudged Liam's hand, a silent request for more attention, and the boy obliged, stroking his ears. The dog's tail wagged stronger, a sign of recovery, his eyes bright with a gratitude Liam mirrored. The morning stretched on, the sounds hum a lullaby, the cedars a green cathedral framing their sanctuary. Liam sketched, capturing Rex's rest, the twig, the memory of the raccoon, a record of their journey. In his mind, Liam reflected on the bond. Was it real? Had Rex truly trusted him? Or had he imagined the depth of that gaze? The twig, the wag, the gentle nudge, all answered yes, a connection that healed the boy's lingering grief for his dad. He whispered, "You're home now." And Rex's ears perked, his head resting against Liam's leg, a mutual comfort in the quiet. The day passed in this rhythm, sketching, feeding, resting, Mary joining with stories of her own childhood pets, the house filling with laughter and warmth. The cedars swayed, their whisper a blessing, the sound a constant, tying this healing to Seattle's soul. Rex's strength grew, his eyes clearer, his trust a living bond that would face new tests. In this aftermath, Liam found peace. A boy and his dog mending together, their story a quiet miracle taking root under the city's watchful trees. The afternoon sun broke through the clouds over Seattle, Washington on this Friday, June 13, 2025 at 10:34 a.m. PKT, casting dappled light across the Harper backyard, where the cedar trees swayed gently, their scent mingling with the damp earth from the morning's rain. The air hummed with a deceptive calm. The Puget Sound's distant murmur a faint counterpoint to the quiet that had settled since Rex's rescue. Liam Harper, nicknamed Baby for his tender innocence, now 9 years old with freckles bright on his cheeks, sat on the porch steps, his green jacket pulled tight against the cool breeze, his nature journal open to a sketch of Rex. The German Haidai shepherd lay beside him, his black and tan fur brushed clean, his amber eyes alert as he chewed on the twig from their journey home, a symbol of their bond. The peace shattered with a low rumble, the ground vibrating as a construction crew rolled into the neighboring lot. Liam's head snapped up, his pencil pausing mid-stroke as the noise grew. Truck engines growling, metal clanking, the whine of a bulldozer's blade cutting through the cedar's rustle. Rex's ears perked, his body tensing, a low growl rumbling in his throat, a protective response to the intrusion that mirrored studies of canines guarding their territory. Coppinger's Dogs, 2001. Liam's stomach tightened, his mind flashing to the warehouse site where he'd found Rex, the crew's earlier threats echoing in his memory. A foreman, broad-shouldered with a clipboard tucked under his arm, stepped from the truck, his boots crunching the gravel as he surveyed the area. His crew followed, unloading machinery, their voices overlapping with orders. The bulldozer's blade gleamed, its shadow falling across the Harper yard, where a low fence marked the boundary. Liam stood, Rex rising beside him, his growl deepening as the foreman approached, his face set with purpose. "Hey, kid," the foreman called, his voice cutting through the machinery's din. "New project. Might need your yard. Expansion. Plans. That dog's gotta go if he's a stray." His words landed like a blow, his clipboard gesturing toward Rex, who bared his teeth, his hackles rising. The crew's noise intensified, hammers pounding, saws screaming, disrupting the backyard sanctuary, the cedars whispered, drowned by the threat. Liam's heart raced, his hands clenching into fists, the journal slipping to the steps. "He's not a stray," he shouted, stepping in front of Rex, his small frame a shield. "He's mine. You can't take him." His voice cracked, tears prickling his eyes, but his resolve hardened, fueled by the memory of Rex's liberation, the trust in those amber eyes. The twig lay abandoned, a silent witness to the bond now under siege. The foreman frowned, adjusting his hard hat. "Rules are rules, kid. Unregistered dogs on construction sites are a liability. We'll call animal control if we have to." He turned to his crew, signaling the bulldozer forward, its blade inching closer to the fence. Rex's growl turned into a bark, sharp and fierce, his body trembling with protective instinct. Liam's mind raced. Animal control had cleared Rex, but this new crew didn't know, didn't care. The backyard, their healing space, was slipping away, the cedars sway a desperate plea against the encroaching steel. The air grew thick with the stench of diesel and freshly turned soil, the sound's hum lost beneath the machinery's roar. Liam thought of his dad, of Rusty, whose loyalty had once defended their home, and felt a surge of courage. He knelt, his hand on Rex's head, calming the dog's barks to a low rumble. "It's okay, Rex," he whispered, his voice steadying. "We'll figure this out." The raccoon's absence stung, its dark eyes and chitter would have bolstered him, but the memory of its guidance lingered, a mythic thread urging him to fight. The bulldozer paused, the foreman raising a hand as a crew member whispered something, pointing at Liam. The boy seized the moment, stepping forward. "I saved him. He was stuck in your warehouse, and now you want to take him away?" His words trembled but carried a weight, his freckled face set with defiance. The crew hesitated, their movements slowing, the machinery's noise softening as they watched. Worker, one from the original site, emerged from the truck, his face lighting with recognition. "That's the kid from the warehouse," he said, nudging the foreman. "He's the one who got that dog out. Maybe we should hold off." The foreman scowled but nodded, lowering his clipboard. The tension coiled tighter, the bulldozer's blade still too close, Rex's growls a constant undercurrent, his loyalty to Liam clear. Liam's chest heaved, his tears falling as he stood firm, Rex at his side. The cedars rustled, their whisper a call to protect what they'd built, the sound's hum a faint lifeline. The threat loomed. Construction, displacement, loss. But Liam's resolve grew, a boy and his dog facing a new peril. In Seattle, where community and nature intertwined, this tension would test their bond, setting the stage for a rallying cry that would echo through the neighborhood. The evening settled over Seattle, Washington, on this Friday, June 13, 2025. At 10:35 a.m. PKT, the sky a canvas of gray streaked with the last amber hues of sunset, the air cool and damp from a recent drizzle. The cedar trees lining the streets cast long shadows across the community center, their scent mingling with the rich aroma of coffee wafting from inside. Liam Harper, nicknamed Baby for his tender innocence, now 9 years old with freckles glowing, under the porch lights stood at the entrance, his green jacket zipped against the chill, his hands clutching the twig Rex had given him. Beside him, Rex, the German shepherd, sat calmly, his black and tan fur brushed and his amber eyes scanning the gathering crowd, a quiet strength in his presence that eased the tension of the afternoon's threat. The center buzzed with life, neighbors streaming in with mugs and murmured conversations, their faces lit by the warm glow of the hall. Posters plastered on the walls read, "Save our neighborhood and protect Rex," a testament to the word that had spread since the construction crew's intrusion. The air hummed with the soft clink of cups and the rustle of coats, the Puget Sound's distant murmur a faint heartbeat beyond the cedars. Liam's heart raced, a mix of nerves and pride swelling in his chest as he thought of the bulldozer's blade, the foreman's words, and his own stand to protect Rex. This rally was his idea, born from a boy's courage and a dog's trust, now igniting a community. Mary, Liam's mom, guided him inside, her hand on his shoulder, her eyes warm with encouragement. "You've got this," she whispered, leading him to a small stage where a microphone waited. Rex followed, his tail wagging gently, his calmness in this social setting mirroring studies of canines adapting to human gatherings with trusted companions. Coppinger's Dogs, 2001. The room quieted as Liam stepped up, the twig in one hand, his journal in the other, a symbol of the journey that had brought them here. "Hi, everyone," Liam began, his voice shaky but clear, echoing through the hall. "I'm Liam and this is Rex. I found him stuck in a warehouse wall and I couldn't leave him." His eyes met Rex's, the dog's gaze steady, a silent support that bolstered him. "They wanted to break the wall, then take our yard. Take him away. But he's not just a dog, he's my friend, and this is our home." A murmur rippled through the crowd, heads nodding, faces softening. A vet, Dr. Patel, stepped forward, her white coat crisp, her voice firm. "I examined Rex yesterday. He's recovering well, but his story's a reminder of what we risk losing. Our green spaces, our pets. We need to fight this expansion." Her words carried weight, the room buzzing with agreement, the coffee aroma blending with the cedar scent drifting through an open window. Neighbors shared stories. Mrs. Chen about her cat rescued from a storm. Drain Mr. Johnson about the trees felled for the new project, each tale weaving a tapestry of care. Liam held up his journal, flipping to a drawing of Rex trapped, then free, his voice gaining strength. "Rex trusted me when no one else did. We can trust each other to save our neighborhood." Rex leaned against his leg, his tail wagging, a living testament to the boy's words. Applause erupted, the sound warm and resonant, the cedar shadows dancing on the walls. A community leader, Ms. Torres, stood, her gray hair catching the light. "We'll petition the city, organize a watch. Liam, you've started something big." The room filled with plans, sign-ups for patrols, calls to council members, a movement sparked by a 9-year-old's heart. The raccoon's absence was felt, its dark eyes a memory that lingered, a mythic guide whose role had set this rally in motion. Liam's chest swelled, tears prickling his eyes, not of fear, but of pride. He thought of his dad, of Rusty, whose loyalty had once rallied neighbors for a block party, and felt that legacy in his leadership. Rex's presence, calm and proud, reinforced it, the dog's trust a beacon for the crowd. The hall grew lively, voices overlapping with hope, the coffee cups clinking as hands reached to pat Rex, who accepted each touch with a gentle nudge. Outside, the cedars rustled, their whisper a blessing, the sounds hum a call to unity. The threat of the bulldozer faded under this collective resolve, the community's spirit, a Pacific Northwest trait of standing for nature and each other, shining through. Liam stepped down, Rex at his side, the twig a talisman in his hand. The rally marked a turning point, an impact that would ripple beyond the center, setting the stage for a miracle yet to unfold, a boy and his dog at the heart of a neighborhood reborn. The dawn light crept over Seattle, Washington, on this Friday, June 13, 2025 at 10:36 a.m. PKT, bathing the Harper backyard in a soft golden hue, the first rays filtering through the cedar trees to dance on the dew-kissed grass. The air was crisp, carrying the sharp scent of cedar and the earthy dampness of the morning, The Puget Sound's gentle hum a distant heartbeat beyond the evergreens. Liam Harper, nicknamed Baby for his tender innocence, now 9 years old with freckles glowing in the light, stood on the porch, his green jacket unzipped, his hands clutching the twig Rex had given him. Beside him, Rex, the German Shepherd, sat alert, his black and tan fur gleaming after a night's rest, his amber eyes scanning the yard with a quiet vigilance. The backyard, their sanctuary since Rex's rescue, buzzed with a subtle energy, the cedars swaying in the early breeze, their whisper a hymn to the wild heart of Seattle. The community rally had bolstered Liam's spirit, the neighbors' support a shield against the construction threat. But the absence of the gray stray raccoon, a guardian since the warehouse, had left a quiet ache. Liam's journal, filled with drawings of Rex and the raccoon, rested on the steps, a testament to the bond that had grown. He thought of his dad, of Rusty, whose spirit seemed to linger in these moments, guiding him through the fear and triumph. A soft rustle broke the silence, drawing Liam's gaze to the cedar's edge. The raccoon emerged, its sleek form gliding through the shadows, its dark eyes catching the dawn light like polished stones. Rex's ears perked, his tail wagging gently, a recognition that echoed studies of canines responding to familiar cues. Coppinger's Dogs, 2001. The raccoon padded forward, stopping at Liam's feet, and with a deliberate motion dropped a small cedar leaf, its edges curled, its scent sharp, onto the porch. The gesture mirrored the twig, a gift that sent a shiver of awe through Liam, a second miracle unfolding in the quiet morning. Liam knelt, his fingers brushing the cedar leaf, its texture smooth yet brittle from the raccoon's hold. "You brought him back for me," he whispered, tears welling in his eyes, not of sorrow but of wonder. The raccoon chittered softly, its purr vibrating through the wood, a sound that seemed to weave the past, Rex's liberation, the rally, into this present promise. Rex nudged Liam's hand, his muzzle brushing the leaf, his tail wagging stronger, a shared recognition that bound them tighter. The cedars rustled louder, their whisper a blessing, the sound's hum a witness to this reunion. The backyard glowed, with Seattle's natural magic, the dew sparkling, the cedars standing tall, the raccoon a mythic figure in this sacred space. Liam's mind flashed to his dad, to Rusty's gentle guidance, and felt that legacy in this moment, a promise kept by the wild, a circle completed. He placed the cedar leaf beside the twig, a pair of tokens that anchored his heart. Rex leaned into him, his weight a comfort, his eyes reflecting the dawn, a trust that had grown through peril and community. Mary appeared at the door, her face lighting with surprise. "Liam? Is that—" She stepped out, her slippers soft on the wood, and smiled as the raccoon rubbed against her leg. "Looks like our friend's back." Her voice carried a warmth, a mother's pride in her son's connection to nature. The neighbors' voices drifted from nearby yards, their morning routines a sign of the rally's lingering impact, the community united by Liam's stand. The raccoon sat, its dark eyes fixed on Liam and Rex, its chitter a steady thread. Liam reached out, his hand hovering, and the raccoon nudged it, a silent acceptance. Rex barked softly, a joyful sound, his alertness giving way to playfulness as he pawed at the cedar leaf. The scene stretched, a second miracle of trust and reunion. The backyard a sanctuary where the wild and human met. Liam's tears fell, mixing with the dew on his cheeks, his heart swelling with a gratitude he couldn't name. The morning deepened, the cedars whisper a lullaby, the sound constant, tying this promise to Seattle's soul. The raccoon's return, the cedar leaf's gift, Rex's joy, all wove a tapestry of hope, a bond that would face its final test. Liam stood, Rex at his side, the twig and cedar leaf in hand, the raccoon a guardian once more. In this moment, where nature and community intertwined, the promise was clear: a boy, a dog, and a raccoon. Their story a light that would shine through the challenges ahead. The morning mist draped Cedar Lane in Seattle, Washington on this Friday, June 13, 2025, at 10:37 a.m. PKT. a soft veil that softened the golden light filtering through the cedar trees. The air was cool and fragrant, heavy with the scent of cedar and the damp earth of the Harper backyard, the Puget Sound's gentle hum threading through the stillness. Liam Harper, nicknamed Baby for his tender innocence, now 9 years old with freckles aglow in the dawn, stood on the porch, his green jacket zipped against the chill, his hands clutching the twig and cedar leaf, tokens of his bond with Rex. Beside him, Rex, the German shepherd, sat tall, his black and tan fur sleek from Mary's care, his amber eyes bright with a wild energy. The gray stray raccoon, its dark eyes piercing the mist, perched nearby, its chitter a quiet pulse in the morning. The backyard, their sanctuary since Rex's rescue, felt different today, a threshold to something new. The community rally had strengthened their resolve, the neighbors' support a shield against the construction threat, and the raccoon's return with the cedar leaf had sealed a promise. Liam's heart beat with a mix of joy and sorrow, knowing this moment would test the bond he'd built. He thought of his dad, of Rusty, whose freedom in the park had been a lesson in love, and felt that legacy guiding him now. The cedars rustled, their whisper a call to the wild, the sound a lifeline urging release. "Let's go to the park," Liam said softly, his voice steady despite the lump in his throat. Rex's tail wagged, his ears perking, and the raccoon chittered, leaping down to lead the way. Liam started walking, the twig and cedar leaf in his pocket. Rex at his side with a steady gait, the raccoon gliding ahead. Neighbors emerged from their homes, Mrs. Chen with a smile, Mr. Johnson with a wave, their presence a community escort, their voices low with support. The mist parted, the cedars framing their path, the morning light growing as they moved toward the nearby park. The journey was quiet, the crunch of gravel under Liam's sneakers mingling with the soft pad of Rex's paws, the raccoon's tail a beacon in the fog. The air grew fresher, the sounds hum louder, the park's open space emerging. A haven, of green with towering trees and a winding path. Liam's chest tightened, his mind replaying Rex's liberation, the rally, the cedar leaf's gift, each memory a thread in their story. Rex stayed close, his amber eyes glancing up, a trust that made the release bittersweet. They reached a clearing, the mist thinning to reveal the park's beauty, cedar shadows stretching across the grass, the sound glinting beyond. The raccoon paused, chittering softly, and Rex stopped, his tail wagging as he surveyed the space. Neighbors gathered, their murmurs a warm hum, Dr. Patel and Mr. Johnson among them, their faces reflecting the community's care. Liam knelt, his hand on Rex's head, feeling the dog's warmth. "You're free now, Rex," he whispered, tears prickling his eyes. "But you'll always be my friend." Rex nuzzled Liam's hand, then stepped back, his movements deliberate. He lowered his head, picking up a small pine needle from the ground, green and slender, a gift mirroring studies, of canines offering items to signify trust or farewell, Coppinger's Dogs 2001. He dropped it at Liam's feet, his tail wagging once more, a final token of their bond. The raccoon chittered, rubbing against the needle, then turned toward the trees, its dark eyes a silent invitation. Rex barked softly, a joyful sound, and followed, his limp gone, his stride strong. Liam's tears fell, mixing with the dew on his cheeks, his heart aching but full. The neighbors cheered, their voices rising. "Go, Rex. Safe travels." A community blessing that echoed through the park. The raccoon led Rex into the cedars, their forms fading into the mist, the pine needle a symbol of release. Liam picked it up, holding it with the twig and cedar leaf, a trio of memories that anchored him. He thought of his dad, of Rusty's freedom, and felt a peace. Rex's choice honored that legacy, a wild spirit returning to the wild. The morning deepened, the cedars whisper a farewell, the sound a constant, tying this release to Seattle's soul. The neighbors approached, patting Liam's shoulder, their support a comfort. Dr. Patel smiled. "He's healed, thanks to you. He'll thrive out there." Mr. Johnson nodded. We'll keep watch, Liam. You've given us all something to fight for. The park glowed with nature's grace, the mist lifting, the community united by this act of love. Liam stood, the pine needle, twig, and cedar leaf in hand, the raccoon and Rex now shadows in the trees. The release was bittersweet. A goodbye. That wasn't an end, but a continuation. Their bond etched in the wild. In Seattle, where nature and community intertwined, this moment marked a freedom earned, setting the stage for a legacy that would endure. The afternoon sun streamed through the tall windows of Liam Harper's classroom in Seattle, Washington. On this Friday, June 13, 2025, at 10:38 a.m. PKT, casting a warm glow across the wooden desks and the colorful posters lining the walls. The air carried the faint scent of chalk dust and the crisp aroma of cedars visible beyond the glass, their branches swaying in the gentle breeze. The Puget Sound's distant murmur threaded through the open window, a constant heartbeat tying the room to the city's wild heart. Liam, nicknamed Baby for his tender innocence, now 9 years old with freckles bright against his skin, stood at the front, his green jacket swapped for a school uniform, his hands clutching the twig, cedar, leaf, and pine needle, tokens of his journey with Rex. The classroom buzzed with quiet anticipation, his classmates' eyes fixed on him, their faces a mix of curiosity and respect. Rex, the German shepherd who had been freed from the warehouse wall, was gone, released into the park's wild embrace that morning. But his presence lingered in Liam's heart and the objects he held. The room felt alive with the memory of the rescue, the rally, the raccoon's gifts. Each moment a thread in a story Liam was now ready to share. His mom, Mary, had encouraged him to speak. Her pride a quiet strength, and the neighbors' support had bolstered his courage. He thought of his dad, of Rusty, whose gentle lessons had guided him through fear to this moment, a legacy he now carried forward. "Hi, everyone," Liam began, his voice steady but soft, echoing in the room. "This is about Rex, the dog I found stuck in a wall. He was scared and no one wanted to help until I did." He held up the twig, its rough texture a tangible link to that first bond. "He gave me this when I brought him home, like a thank you." The class leaned in, their whispers fading, the cedars rustle a backdrop to his tale. Liam continued, flipping open his journal to show drawings. Rex trapped, free, with the raccoon, in the park. The crew wanted to hurt him, but I stood up. The neighbors helped, and the raccoon, it brought us a cedar leaf, then a pine needle before he went back to the wild. He raised the cedar leaf, then the pine needle, their scents faint but evocative. This morning Rex chose freedom, but he trusted me first. His voice trembled, tears prickling his eyes, but he smiled, a wisdom beyond his years shining through. A classmate, Sophia, raised her hand, her voice curious. "Why'd he leave?" Liam paused, his gaze drifting to the window, the cedars a green cathedral. "Because he's wild at heart," he said. "But he taught me kindness speaks louder than fear. It's how we save each other." The room fell silent, the lesson sinking in, mirroring studies of canines influencing human empathy through trust. Coppinger's Dogs, 2001. The teacher, M.S. Anderson, nodded, her eyes warm, encouraging the class to reflect. The students shared their own stories, a lost bird, a stray cat, each tale weaving a tapestry of care inspired by Liam's. He set the tokens on the desk, their presence a shrine to Rex, the raccoon, and the community. The air grew thick with the scent of learning and hope. The cedars whisper a hymn to the Seattle wilds that had shaped this legacy. A distant bark floated through the window, faint but clear. Rex's, a natural echo that sent a shiver through. Liam, a mythic hint of the dog's enduring spirit. Ms. Anderson stepped forward, her voice gentle. "Liam, you've shown us what kindness can do. Maybe we can start a club to help animals like Rex." The class clapped, their hands a warm rhythm, the idea taking root. Liam's chest swelled, pride mixing with the ache of Rex's absence. He thought of his dad, of Rusty's bark in the park, and felt that legacy in his voice, in the room's unity. The bell rang, but the lesson lingered, the cedar's shadows stretching across the desks. The neighbor's petition had paused the construction, the community watch growing, all sparked by a boy and his dog. Liam gathered his tokens, the bark echoing again, a promise that Rex thrived. In his mind, he saw the raccoon's dark eyes, the park's mist, the bond that had changed him. The classroom emptied, but the legacy remained. A story of kindness that would echo through Seattle, a moral for all. The afternoon deepened, the sounds hum a constant, the cedars a witness. Liam walked home, the twig, cedar leaf, and pine, needle in his pocket, his heart full. In Seattle, where nature and community intertwined, this legacy of kindness lived on, a boy's courage a beacon for the future.